Well, you guys are here for the lecture, right? Just probably make sure.
This is the Black Ops lecture, right?
No, it's not at all. Is there a Black Ops lecture scheduled?
There isn't. I was just joking.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely here for this lecture. It was kind of vague, but yeah, here to find out what it's about.
Okay, cool. Did you guys have a chance to check out the videos?
Nope, didn't see any videos. Checking.
Yeah, they're posted a couple times in the link. I would I'd be happy to share them in the public chat, but I am still banned from the EvE University public channel, so I cannot. Maybe one of you guys could share it in there.
You can share them in the public chat.
You guys, I'm assuming you just went by the calendar. It's posted as a class that took place last week, just in the, I don't know, on the regular forums thing.
Oh, this is. Let me up the volume on this.
So, I'm going to try my best to watch for questions in the Twitch feed as well. Which, here, I'm going to do it this way. Can you please... How do I send a message to somebody? Just get that out there, because that's how we're going to... Obviously, I'm going to stream it, but I'm also going to... It's going to be archiving it, so it'll record the lecture. That's going to be the easiest way for me to get it to the website once it's done. Oh, EvE University public channel. I think I got banned from it in like 2011, and some of the guys were trying to get me unbanned, but unfortunately it wasn't functioning correctly, so I'm still not able to get in.
What did you do to get banned?
I don't know. I was probably fucking with somebody. I really have no idea. It's a long time ago. I get banned from lots of places.
Yeah, it happens.
But yeah, I'm allowed to be a guest lecturer. I'm allowed to post on the forums, and I think I'm allowed to be in the channel as far as the people running the channel are concerned. But there's some kind of a glitch, and it won't unban me.
That's probably something we need to talk to either Sikander or Asmodeus or someone.
Well, I think one of the guys may have put in a ticket for me, but whatever. I don't do this stuff all that often, so it's not that pressing. And obviously, people can help me get the info out there anyway, and
We appreciate you teaching the lecture, though. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, nobody else wants to listen, so I'm excited to do this, though. I have all these ideas. I think you guys will appreciate them. I haven't given this lecture ever to anybody, so yeah, kind of bear with me while we do it. But I think you guys will be a good group. I mean, last time I did this, I was doing a lecture on advanced frigate tactics, so like trying to harass groups with like a couple guys, and that went well. Like, people were good listeners, and they had good questions, and I thought it turned out nicely. This will be very conceptual, I guess you could say. This is going to be stuff that isn't necessarily literal how-to steps when it comes to like, I'm not going to necessarily show you ship fits about like, oh, what should you fly in particular to, say, be a pirate. Because that is the heart of this lecture, essentially, is how to be a pirate in EVE Online. So I'm actually going to give you guys, and I don't know the best way to do it because I'm not in the channel, but I'd like to give you guys the link to the lecture presentation. That way you guys can follow along in real time. Try not to get too far ahead. If you're just looking at it, it's fine, but
You have access to lecture.euni?
yeah, I probably do.
Okay.
But is there an easier way I can just link it here, paste?
You
Boom.
can link it in
there.
mobile.
Did that
There you
work?
go.
Hello.
Hey there.
Yep, there it is.
Okay, cool. So, who was able to watch the videos before coming to the class here? Before coming to the lecture, they have the same title there: Art of Poor Part 1 and Part 2.
Yeah, I've seen them.
Okay. Did you guys have any questions about the videos? Just before we get rolling on this. This is going to cover essentially different topics along the same concept, but okay. Well, are all of you able to open up that document?
Yep.
Okay. If you're watching the live stream, you could watch and keep the volume off, and it probably won't matter that it's not delayed intentionally, but there's a little bit of a delay just by it being a stream. So if you guys wanted to have that open, you can watch the Twitch feed with the sound off. You can kind of see if I'm, I don't know, making silly hand gestures or whatever page I happen to be on. I'll try and remember to let you guys know when I'm switching pages otherwise. But the other thing is, if any of you can jump in and check out the stream audio quality for me real quick, that'd be really helpful.
Sure. Where is the link to the stream?
One sec here.
Well, for me it sounds alright.
There's nothing being done to the audio. That's just what I don't know. That's just how this mic and my voice work together, I guess. I'm talking to somebody on the stream, by the way. So that's
Nice mic.
yeah. I mean, it works good. It's actually it's a pretty cheap one. I think it was like $30. It's by Blue. It's the Snowball mic. You can buy them at like Best Buy or Walmart or whatever. It's not super high quality, but I find it works good for this, and I managed to fit a little pop filter for $3 off of it, or on it, from like Guitar Center. Anyway, so let's get started. Thank you guys for coming. The Art of Poor. This is gonna be, like I was telling these guys before some of you jumped in, the first time I'm ever giving this type of, well, this lecture in particular. So yeah, bear with me, but I think it'll go smoothly, and we'll keep it nice and casual. So if you guys have questions, please interject whenever you feel like it throughout the entire thing. Interaction from you guys is going to keep this much, much more interesting, because it is a lecture. It's pretty dense as far as EVE Online stuff goes. But yeah, anyway, so let's get started. This is the stuff we're going to be covering here, our lecture summary. So I'm going to be helping to define what I mean by sustainable PvP. Obviously, defining sustainable PvP can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. I have a very particular definition for the type of stuff that I'm talking about. I'm going to talk a little bit about risk versus reward, specifically related to piracy in EVE Online. I'm going to go over a risk assessment technique, a theoretical risk scoring system that I've sort of devised. It's really more for conceptual, like learning how to assess a particular situation, or even consider a situation that's already taking place and see what you could have done better. So we'll get to that. And then I have a significant portion dedicated to ransoming, which is obviously one of the bread and butter activities of good pirate. And so anytime you talk about piracy, you can't leave that out. So that's going to include some topics about why ransoms shouldn't work in EVE, and then we're going to talk about how to make them work anyway, because obviously they do, and they can be pretty profitable. So then I have a section at the end just for some questions and answers. You guys are obviously all welcome to ask questions and, throughout the whole thing. But yeah, that's the summary. So what do I mean by sustainable? It's more than flying what you can afford to lose. Now, this mantra that's throughout EVE, anytime you hear somebody experienced talking to a new pilot, don't fly what you can't afford to replace, don't fly what you can't afford to lose. In this instance, it's more than that. It's being able to replace what you've lost with income generated through PvPing or through piracy in particular. So I can move my face actually. One sec. So if it's done well, it's the only thing that you're going to need to do for ISK. So why would you do that? Any thoughts?
Why would you do piracy as your sole source of income?
Yeah, exactly. Why would you want to do that?
Because PvP is fun.
Exactly, right. So it's an enjoyable activity, right? No, that makes perfect sense. So a really great reason, and really the reason that I started with the Art of Poor videos, and one of the reasons I'm excited to do this lecture, is that way too often in EVE, you see people who are participating in the grind. They're out there mining, they're out there doing missions, they're doing something that they maybe want to do, but really, in the end, a lot of them are, and they'll openly tell you this, I'm earning money so that I can go PvP. And that's unfortunate, because it means that you're doing something that you don't want to do in order to do something later that you do want to do. And in life, that's excellent, but this is a game. It's meant to be entertaining. So if you're not having fun, why are you doing it? So myself, and I can imagine quite a few people, I think a lot of people dislike the PvE content in EVE. It's repetitive, it's relatively boring. There's, once you've sort of figured it out, there's not much more to do. So there's a lot of different ways, obviously, people can make money, but unfortunately a lot of it is kind of, if your goal is to PvP and you're only trying to make money specifically so that you can go out and participate in those activities, there should be ways that people can enjoy the activities without having to do something they don't want to. So, roundabout way of saying. Anyways, so if you prefer solo, tandem, or small gang PvP, reason that's important to mention is that piracy as a financial means doesn't work if you're splitting the profits 20 ways. You got to do it with a very small group. Solo is obviously the most profitable. Tandem, you have more opportunity to beat different targets of opportunity. Maybe working together can provide you a lot more advantage. So it's not just twice as much power. Maybe it's 5 times as much power. But the point is that every time you add an additional member, everybody wants a cut. If you're doing it for money. So, if you can function with little cash overhead, that's pretty important as well. If your preference is to fly around in the blingiest thing you can, hold on one sec. Yeah, I'm reading. If you guys have questions, let me know. That's fine. So yeah, if it's your preference to like jump in a Varger or some expensive ship, and just see how much damage you can do, and get a high score, basically, because that's what you're doing. See how many enemy ships you can destroy before you lose that expensive ship. This won't be really up your alley. This is turning something that basically you take something inexpensive and you very efficiently attack other players and make money on with your inexpensive ship, basically. So the other thing is, when you play as a PvEer, you are playing as a prey item. So if you don't want to be a prey item, you have to learn to play as an aggressor, as a hunter, and as a pirate. Especially if you need to try and maintain your financial stability as an individual. So, any questions about this section? I think it's pretty self-explanatory as to why you would want to do this stuff. I'm looking at, if there's questions in the stream, I'm happy to answer those too. So, interact with me.
No,
Well,
not at the moment.
I just popped in, but maybe you already explained it. How did you start your EVE career?
So, me personally, when I very, very first started, I guess I was involved in some little high-sec corporations. Didn't know much about the game, obviously. Everybody sort of hits that learning curve early on. I think the first PvP loss I had was a Tyrannus, and I attacked a curse head-on by myself because I just had no clue what I was doing. Anyways, over time, obviously, you start to learn, and you sort of, I don't know, feel like you want to have the upper hand in some situations. So I don't know exactly the first time that I won in PvP would be, but I'll tell you, I spent a pretty long time in a low-sec island system near Dodixie, and that was, I would say, the first time that I flew as a pirate in the most strict sense, that I was earning money, ransoming people, occasionally commandeering ships, like trying to make my money via that activity. And I did that with a couple of other good friends of mine, and it was really enjoyable. So I guess that's where we started. Right now, if you guys don't know, and it's totally fine if you don't, but I fly with Honorable Third Party, which is a Black Ops heavy alliance, and we make a bit of money taking fancy loot off of Pravi wrecks, basically. And yeah, so we have a good time with that. But that's what we do now, and it's actually got a lot of similarities in that we are intentionally risk averse, and the idea is to get in, hit something, make some money off of it, and then get out without losing it. So hopefully that answers it. That's probably a little bit long-winded, but
So I've got a question.
yeah, absolutely.
How do you deal with getting ships exactly, like to where you're pirating?
How do I move ships to the location where I'm acting as a pirate? Is that your question?
Yeah, I've always been curious about that.
Oh, so if you're saying if my sec status is low, too low to
pretty
move
much.
through high sec. Okay, so primarily people use alts. A lot of times, if you're in a small corporation, the corporation will have one or two logistics guys that'll just fly ships over, and it's generally pretty straightforward. Personally, since the introduction of the tag system, you can repair your sec status for a fairly inexpensive price, and it's worth doing because then you can move wherever you want. You don't have to worry about logistics. You can sometimes, obviously, just like anybody, get war decked still, but it's very convenient if you happen to be a pirate that stays in a general area near a trade hub. You can just fly over there yourself, get whatever you want, and come back. I have to say, as far as being a pirate, there's a lot to be said for being local. It's very difficult when you just travel into other people's space to be aware of all of the dynamics that are taking place around you. And so if you specialize as a pirate, I think it's fairly important to specialize in a particular system, a particular region, and to very, very clearly understand all of the elements that surround your particular piece of space.
Can you talk a minute about like your setup in terms of like you have a Uni character, a pirate, and another corporation character, and like another character?
I primarily have one character. Character's name is John Dries, and that's it. I do have an alt. Obviously, there's extra character on the account. I occasionally move that, use that for moving things, but I don't have multiple characters. I don't have an EVE University character, if that's what you're saying. I'm not even allowed in the EVE University public chat. We were just talking.
Okay.
Yeah. It's if you're gonna fund yourself, I just pay for a subscription. So if I was gonna try and be a pirate and earn a plex a month, that'd be a lot off of the top. If your operating budget is only a couple billion a month, maybe. So I have a question from the stream. I'm glad to finally see one out of there. How do you go about finding the perfect piece of space for yourself? Now, geographically speaking, if you're going to be starting out as a pirate, there's a few things that are really important. One, and this is probably the hardest part, is that it's not already full of other people who you can't beat. Going in and forcing somebody out who's set up in an area is a total pain in the ass, and there's no way around it. If they're there and they're dug in, there's a pretty strong chance that either you're going to have to work with them, or they're going to stay there and you're going to have to find a new spot. So the other thing that's important is traffic. There's no sense in going to some random low-sec system and setting up shop if you're never going to see another soul. The point of being a pirate is that you attack other players. Well, if there's no other players, it's pretty difficult to attack them. So there's a number of ways to sort of pick, but I would say it's important to be as close to high-sec as you can possibly be. A lot of times it's nice if it's a tunnel. A lot of times it's nice if it happens to be a thoroughfare, basically connecting to trade hubs. Those tend to be camped pretty heavily, so if you're by yourself, it's going to be a pain to sort of take it over. And then the other thing to search for is areas that the game sort of funnels players into. So the low-sec system that I spent a lot of time in was one of a number of systems that basically sent people to do their first level 4 in low-sec, and a lot of times they brought their very first battleship into low-sec, which was a big problem for them if they ran into me or either of the guys I was with. So it's possible to find those places. You can search via the map for that sort of traffic, that sort of geography, and then the easiest way to search for if there's activity in an area isn't to go into the area and sit around. It is to check the kill boards. So you go to Zkill and you can search for the systems in the search menu the way you'd search for a character, and when you do that, you're able to identify who the top killers are in that particular area, if those are people who've stayed in the same region for a long time, and you can get a lot of information about what they fly, how many people they're with, the types of stuff that they're doing. I hope that answers that. Ideal number for a small gang? Personally, I like flying with 2 or 3. It's it's nice to go solo, but there's so much advantage to be gained by going with a couple people, where if you're in a tackling ship, you can have somebody come in something like a Oracle and just burn them down for you, where the combination of those two ships sort of synergizes and makes them both really effective, and with just a couple people, you're not splitting profits that much. So any questions before we move on other than that? Okay, so risk versus reward. This is going to be the part that I guess would be controversial, if there's such a thing in EVE. Attacking targets that you will destroy. Not going out and roaming until you're dead, not going out and giving it your best, just identifying targets that you are positive you will be able to take out before they can kill you. It's intentionally risk averse, and people will give you a lot of shit for it. People are going to tell you you're a coward. People are going to send you nasty emails if you're doing it a lot. It's fine. It's a game, and you can play it whatever way you want. So if you want to go out and just PvP until you're dead, that is awesome. It's fun. I've done it. I did it yesterday. But if you're going out and you're intentionally trying to basically use this as a source of income, using this as a way to generate the cash that you use to keep your PvP activities going, you have to play a little bit smarter than that. Important, you have to be able to get your prizes back out. So obviously if you set up in the ass end of nullsec and you get some big kill, you may have some trouble moving it all the way back out safely. Now, if you're doing it in nullsec, there's a lot of tactics that you can use that can help you. One thing that we'll frequently do is we'll use bridge ships. Basically, we'll set up a camp with some anything that can use a covert ops cloak, essentially. We'll kill a couple things, and then we won't try and fly that stuff back out because you'll run into gate camps, you'll run into the opposition. You simply jump in Black Ops ships and then jump back into lowsec, and you're completely safe. The other thing that's great for extracting loot safely is wormholes. So if you have somebody that can probe, you can hopefully sneak through wormholes without too much trouble. And then the other thing to do is have a mobile depot so that you're able to refit and be flying in something that is nullified if you're in nullsec. Lowsec is its own thing. If you're in lowsec, extracting loot is much less of a problem. But this also brings up an important point. Never underestimate how much the value of the ships being destroyed actually is. So what I mean by that is you can destroy an average, let's say, T2 fit cruiser. They'll drop between 10 and 12 million, and if you're talking about battleships, it can be a whole lot more because the guns can be expensive. They can be kind of heavy. But my point is, if you leave that there consistently, you're missing out on a lot of money. In fact, just by doing like regular PvP and remembering to pick the stuff up and trying to take it back to high sec, if you PvP with relatively good efficiency, you'll have enough money to continue doing what you do.
So you're just saying loot all the dead bodies because there's good money in that.
There is, but here's the thing: is unless it's a big score, a lot of times people go, I don't really care about that. I'm not, I'll leave the neutron blasters because I don't feel like carrying them. But the truth is that all adds up. It adds up pretty quickly, especially if you do a lot of killing. So yeah, along with the lines of efficiency stuff, using inexpensive ships to destroy high-value targets. Now, sometimes inexpensive doesn't work. There's no inexpensive Black Ops option. When you're flying a Panther, the hull's a billion-isk approximately, and you're going to throw in a billion-isk in fittings if you're doing it right. But the idea is efficiency. So even if the ship that you're using is expensive, if that ship is expensive and has a high rate of survival because of its expense, because of its speciality, it's worth doing. I see a question. Let me just read here. So the question in the stream right now is explain the difference between the current meta in nullsec and lowsec. So the differences, I would say, primarily are in lowsec. You have more brawling. You tend to have people that force you to engage with them in like starting at 0 locations. So if you're talking about faction warfare complexes, and you enter those, you're going to start at 0, which means there's a lot of benefit to using afterburners over micro warp drives because of the ability to control range better. Lowsec right now is absolutely infested with links, pilots that run with links, high-grade implants, stuff that's going to make the balance shift in their favor. That's why it's important to sort of be a homebody when it comes to pirating for profit, because you will know which people tend to run with links. You'll know which people tend to be more dangerous because they're set up to be so. So in nullsec, the people that travel into nullsec are obviously just like everywhere, but there's not a lot of money necessarily to make in lowsec, right? So more people in nullsec proportionately are there as PvEers. So if you're a pirate, if you're trying to make money attacking people that aren't necessarily looking to fight you, is obviously an efficient way to increase your odds of killing ships and making money off of it. So personally, I think the current meta sort of tends towards nullsec being a better place to act as a pirate, even though you don't get the nice, tasty sec hits. Any questions about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of us may be a little bit new. Can you talk about like what the composition of, say, frigates, destroyers, those smaller ships, and what you can kind of aim to take down?
Well, all right. Let's just do a hypothetical, right? And we're going to get into this kind of a little bit more further into the thing, so I won't spend too much time on it at the moment. But let's just say, like a hypothetical, you're out in a what's a good one? An Incursus. That's a pretty good starting frigate. It's got a beefy tank, so that once it's engaged on things, you can sort of spend some time there, I guess is the idea. So let's say you found somebody out in a Drake ratting. Now those two ships in and of themselves, they aren't necessarily a great combination. They're not like a great match for each other. The Drake has the upper hand in the fact that it is massively tanky by comparison, but the fact that it's firing missiles, and in some cases it'll be firing, like heavy assault missiles, means that its application, unless it's set up to do so, will be quite poor against a ship like an Incursus. So the two may be at a stalemate with each other, but here's the consideration. If you are a PvPer, a pirate, attacking people who are PvEing, those pilots probably won't have a way to hold you and actually attack back. So quite frequently, and it's less popular now, but you used to run into passive regen drakes with like it'll have a prop mod and then the rest of it'll just be tank in the mid slots, no application stuff, like target painters or webs, no scrams, no disrupts, because they don't intend to PvP, and so even if you aren't able to win, you can still give it a go, because you'll be able to disengage at will. Now this requires a couple things. You have to identify the risks that person presents prior to that engagement. So you have to see who they are, and then you have to look them up, and then you have to give it a go. But anyway, am I on the right track with your question? I guess I'm explaining the entire meta of frigates and destroyers and everything right now is a little bit tricky. But the truth is, the game at the moment, it tends towards the smaller ships being the best options, because they have the most ability to get in and get out and survive that way. Okay. So this was the thing I mentioned at the beginning of the lecture, the risk assessment score. This is a theoretical 0 to 10 risk score that allows pilots to rationally evaluate situations before or after an engagement. What is the point of that? What do I mean by a risk assessment score? Basically, I want people, and you guys in particular, since you happen to be listening to the lecture, to consider exactly what they're getting into prior to getting into it, and or learn from those mistakes, and understanding that there were ways to identify risk before diving in headfirst. So it's conceptual. It's not like I expect people to always this guy is a 3 on the risk engagement score. I should go after him with my such and such ship. It's really meant to have people just have in mind the types of things that they should be considering prior to an engagement. So there's too many variables to be 100% accurate. That's what makes the game fun. You're not ever going to be 100% positive about any given situation. Even the newest pilot, and especially now, the newest pilot in the game, he could be created today and have a whole bunch of skill injectors implanted on him, and he could be capable of lighting a cyno on you and, turning your day upside down. It's a very different sort of risk assessment than it would have been, I guess, in the past. But you can still gain a pretty clear idea of what you're jumping into. So more information, obviously, better than less information. That's an obvious statement, but a lot of times it just gets ignored. Where people say, "Well, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to," and what I mean by that is just like, we think it's risky, but we're going to do it anyway. But how risky? And this is sort of meant to give you some sort of a point of reference. So this is a little sheet I made. This is what I'm talking about. This probably looks a little bit like a crazy person because, one moment, there. No sane person is going to necessarily be keeping track of each one of these things. But the truth is, most PvPers, once they become effective, they are looking into these things prior to a fight. Whether they are giving it a score or not, that's different. But so let's start at the top here. You have the who. So who's the target? How efficient are they in their kill boards? And how many people are they generally with? This is sort of arbitrary as far as the numbering goes, but like I said, it's just meant to be sort of a point of reference. So I gave people who have less than a 1-to-1 kill-death ratio and less than 100 total kills a risk of 0. They're likely inexperienced. They're likely people who are PvEing a lot of times, just newer players, and then it goes up as the person, as their kill board, shows you that they appear to be more experienced. Your risk for engaging that person goes up. Now, an important consideration to make along lines of that is that how many people do they tend to fly with? So if you go through the list and it says this guy is usually with 10 guys or 20 guys or 150 guys, it's more risky to engage them because it's unlikely that they happen to be alone. So what is the target flying? That's obviously a pretty significant consideration. And if you're chasing down PvE targets, that presents far less risk than if you're going after PvP targets. Obviously, right? They intend to fight you if they are PvP fit, or they at least intend to fight somebody. Where if they're PvE fit, you guys are probably well aware the fits are extremely different, and they're not necessarily capable of dealing with incoming damage of the different type than the site that they're in, or they don't have the ability to sort of defend themselves against another person flying a ship. So PvP 2, PvE 0. You guys following so far?
Following.
Okay. So then there is the vulnerable to ship being flown. This requires some knowledge of the actual ships, but there are clear hard counters and clear if you know for a fact that the person you're about to attack is in a stealth bomber and you're in an assault frigate, it's extremely unlikely that stealth bomber has anything possible, any possible way of winning, and so it would present 0 risk. It means that you're flying a hard counter to them, equivalent to current ship. So you guys are flying the same thing or same class of thing, and then risk of 2. Basically, if they are in a let's just reverse the original hypothetical where they're flying a assault frigate and you're in a stealth bomber. Obviously, bombers have the great advantage of you don't have to engage if you don't want to because you can sit cloaked, but that increases your risk and then increases the score on this little chart. So the environment, that's pretty important. That would be, I guess, the where. You want to define the number of pilots in local, attempt to identify what they're up to. If they have a known standing fleet, like let's say they're gate camping on the other end of the system, even if you found somebody alone or somebody who is still ratting, their response time is going to be much, much faster. Risk goes up. So, take that into consideration. If you only have one pilot in local, you add a 0 to that. If you have more than one pilot, you have a 1 to your risk score. And if you have more than 10, you have 2. Obviously, you have to descan the system and sort of get a feel for how many people are actually out. There can be some misleading information with towers that have ships and things left in them, but you take into consideration what's around you. And then self. So what I have there is determine the risk level of the ship that you are flying. Some ships are more dangerous to engage with than others. Basically, I have this as a... are you in a ship that's kitey? Are you in a ship that's brawly? Are you in a ship that has the ability to disengage because it can use bonus newts or bonus webs to keep people at range and get out? Do you have the ability to escape a particular situation after you've initiated combat? And that is significant. It makes all the difference in the world whether you're going to keep your ship for more than one fight or not if you can spring a trap and get out versus if you spring a trap and you're absolutely pinned down. This is why the preference in the game has been so significantly tended towards kiting over brawling, because a brawling ship has to engage until someone is dead most of the time. It's possible now with MJDs to manipulate that a bit, but the truth is kiting is still a very strong option when it comes to engaging and then being able to disengage. So that's the 0 to 10 score. Really, it's just meant to give people an idea of what they're about to get into. Does anybody have questions about it? Or even, does anybody have an example of a recent engagement they were involved in where they could give it a score?
Well, actually, my question is regarding what tools do you use in order to assess risk?
So the most important tool at the moment is probably the kill boards. They don't tell you everything, but they tell you a lot. If CCP wanted to change the entire game and completely make it a different environment, they could just get rid of kill boards, and it would alter the way everybody does everything. There's so much information to be gleaned. There's so much silly pride and like, oh, look how great my kill board is. It's nonsense. It doesn't matter. No one cares. Anyway, point being, the current one, and it's been for a couple of years now, is Z Killboard. If you guys have not been there, you should familiarize yourself with it. Just know that you can look up people, know that you can look up systems, know that you can look up their most frequent ships that they fly. So I guess would be like in there, it's stats and then top, and then you do monthly top or all-time top, and it'll show you the ships that they prefer to fly. All that stuff is really useful, all of it.
So I think it might be helpful to kind of walk through an example if you saw somebody in a system that was one person, and like looking them up and what you would track down, how to get the information, and then making your decision.
Sure. So why don't can we use one of you guys? Would that be offensive? One sec here.
No, yeah, you see Justin Cole on D-Scan.
Okay, let's do that. So I'm on Zkill. I have my keyboard kind of pushed out of the way. So is it just
COAL?
COAL. Okay. So I would search for you on Zkill. That's a little search bar right at the top. I see that you have recent activity with a couple of, your most recent kill was with 9 people, a Raven out in Syndicate. It looks like you spend a lot of time in Syndicate. It looks like you have pretty poor efficiency. So the other thing to do here is, once I've looked you up and I can see that you've got a lot of lost mails, I can sort of get some information then about the kind of stuff you do. So obviously you're flying a lot of ECM ships. If I was in something like a Confessor and I saw that you happen to fly a lot of Kitsunes, I would personally hope that you were in the Kitsune, especially with a prototype cloak on it, or an improved cloaking device like I see in the fit that you've got here. I wonder if I can just bring this on screen. So this right here, I would know what your most recent fit was, and I would assume, not assume 100%, but I would sort of try and, I guess that if you were out in space and I didn't see you on D-Scan, you're cloaked in something like this. And then I would be ready for it, because, you know, if there's other people that are doing things that appear like, oh, hey, this guy's being overly aggressive, he must have something up his sleeve. Well, I see that you have this on your kill board, so now I know there's a pretty strong possibility that the reason that that other person is being overly aggressive with whatever I happen to be flying is because they have ECM backup. And so then I can be prepared for it, and, like, let's say you decloak that on grid with my Confessor. The fact that it has no tank means that I'm going to overheat my beams and probably kill you before you lock me. I mean, it's all hypothetical, but that's the type of information you can, you know, gather from it. And, like, you have a pattern of flying that particular Kitsune, so, like, it's pretty likely that that's what I would guess you were doing. You fly a lot of VCM, it looks like. And it doesn't look like there's a lot of, or any solo kills, because actually there's a section, I mean, it's just all solo losses, but no kills yet. And so I can see that you've never killed anybody by yourself, and so if you are aggressively, you know, coming after my ship, I can then sort of surmise from that you have more people with you. That, or today's the first day you've decided to try solo PvP, and we're going to have ourselves a tussle. Yeah, what's up?
What's with the perception that Caldari ships are, everywhere I read, they seem to be the weakest of the races for PvP? Why is that?
I don't know if that's true. I mean, I think each race has its own particular ships that really shine. I know as far as large fleet engagements go, the Cerberus is extremely popular right now. You know, for a long time, Drakes. I think part of the perception change might have been that Drakes were such a popular and you know, like, prolific ship for them, and they got nerfed really, really hard a while ago, and so everybody sort of was like, well, if they don't have the Drake, they don't have shit. But that's just not the case. They have a lot of fun stuff to fly, and they're the only group that gets, like, ridiculously overpowered ECM, so they've got that going for them.
Could you do the same analysis for me that you did right now on that other guy? I sent you a message on Mumble.
Oh, where do you get messages in Mumble? Maybe. I don't even see a message. Honestly, I think you understand the assessment, correct? I want to keep this moving, I guess, is my thing here. I don't mind doing it at the end, though. So keep it in mind, and I absolutely will. All right?
Did you get it, the message at me?
I will take a look for it. I think, is it Tavian? Ask
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So remind me at the end, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure thing. All right, so I want to preface this whole section here with the fact that I am not a game theorist. I'm not an economist. I'm not really that well versed in a lot of these ideas, but ransoming happens to work really well with the with some of the ideas in game theory. Now, do you guys know what game theory is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so bear with my very amateur explanations of of game theory stuff with regards to ransoming. Well, let me ask this: have any of you guys ever ransomed somebody or been ransomed?
Sadly, no.
Someone gets ransomed a lot. It's like I hold through Uadama, and there's always someone who pays. By just looking at chat at how many people that are annoyed that they didn't get to jump away after they paid.
Yeah, I paid.
You okay? So, Saidio, what was your experience like being ransomed?
It was the first day I had a procurer. Took pictures of it, sent them to my brother. Very proud of it. And
this is depressing.
24 hours later, I got dropped on by a war target.
Okay.
And he said, "Send me 10 million ISK and I'll let you go." I did, and he did not.
Right.
So I lost the ship.
Yeah.
I was devastated at the time, but I recovered.
So, unfortunately, that is kind of the way those go. That's sort of the narrative when it comes to ransoms in EVE. And we're going to go over why that's the case. And then if any of you guys try ransoming people, or ever you're ransomed again, you'll probably have better strategy for it. So, please don't crucify me, super nerds. But ransoming in EVE is a finite sequential game with imperfect information. If you guys are familiar with the terms from game theory stuff, the game isn't referring to EVE Online. It's referring to the situation between the two pilots and the interaction that is about to take place. Game theory is about like strategic decision making, a lot of times related to economics. Basically, a ransom in EVE is something that could be considered equivalent to what's called a prisoner's dilemma, which just Google that shit on your own. I'm going to really horribly explain it, and it's going to come off really stupid. So let's just go right into it here. Why ransoms should not work in EVE. And we kind of just talked about it, but there's no tangible consequence for a pirate not honoring a ransom. That's pretty clear, right? You pay, and he goes, "Yeah, fuck him. I'm going to blow the ship up too. I got money, and I got got the kill." There's potentially financial incentive for a pirate not to honor a ransom. So let's say you pay, and he assumes you have expensive stuff in your ship. He's got incentive monetarily to like take the money and blow up the ship. There's no like reason for him not to. There's arguments that they're going to diminish their reputation. What reputation? They're a pirate. No one trusts them anyway. So, whatever. Because pirates know these facts, their dominant strategy is to get paid and kill the ship. And because most pilots know that pirates know these facts, their dominant strategy is to refuse to pay. Now, this would be my best attempt at a payout table for ransoms. I'm not going to try and dive into it because I think I may have screwed it up a little bit, but more relevant is this diagram, which is sort of the sequential decision-making tree that takes place during a ransom. So follow along with me as best you can. Here we're on, slide 10. Now at the top, and at each one of these nodes, that would be where a decision is made with regards to the ransom. So let's say at the top here, you are trapped with your Dominix, or you have trapped a Dominix, whatever it happens to be. Your decision as the Dominix pilot is pay over here on the right, or not pay over here on the left. And subsequently, there are consequences for either of those actions. So if you don't pay, the pirate destroys the ship. If you do pay, the pirate now has to decide what his decision is, and it is either to release you, you get to keep your Dominix, or you lose the ship. And so this is why ransoms don't work, because really, from the pirate's perspective, he gets to this decision, he's like, well, I already have the money. There is no, real downside to also destroying the ship. I, personally, and this is a kind of a sidetrack, I really wish that CCP would include an actual mechanic, whether it was a module or just something you could sort of flag on your ship, where it's like, basically, if you pay me enough ISK, I will shut down all of my modules, except for my prop mod, and basically letting you go. And
That wouldn't work.
Well, so here's why it would work. Because if there's multiple people on grid, obviously you could still screw the guy over, right? Because you're only paying one person to get one thing shut down. But it encourages solo PvP then, which is something that's sort of missing at the moment. Anyway, that's a sidetrack. I don't want to even talk about it. I think, creating incentive for pirates to actually honor ransoms would be a sweet move on CCP's part, but it's not really the discussion. And the truth is, I don't care if you guys go out and decide to ransom people. Kill them when you're done. It doesn't bother me. So whatever you decide to do, go for it. So that's why they shouldn't work, but obviously they do. And so what types of things do you need to make a ransom work? Stable combat situation. That's obviously evident by the fact that you need to be able to not only win, but you need to be able to spend time communicating with the person well. They may or may not be attacking you. So it needs to be, you need to win, but you need to win by such a wide margin that they can't chase you off or start to sort of whittle you down. That means anytime you intend to ransom somebody, you better have a active tank or the ability to regenerate shields or armor, so that you can stay there as long as is necessary to have the conversation for the person to decide what they want to do. Step one in that is to get them to stop shooting. So the best way to do that is, hey, let's both stop shooting. You should open that conversation. Right there, you're sort of disarming, because they're willing to talk just for the sake of basically giving themselves more time. A lot of times that can mean that someone's on the way to rescue them, so you'll want to work fast regardless. But obviously, you need to have enough tank or damage mitigation to keep the fight going. That's kind of what I was mentioning before as far as a stable combat situation. If they're launching ECM drones, all bets are off. Just either kill them, or you can try and kill the ECM drones, but you don't want them to slip out because they're hitting you with ECM drones while you're talking with them. That's not going to work. So obviously the other pretty important factor here is you have to have the ability to actually kill what you've caught. Even if you can stay on grid with them for an indefinite period of time, if you don't have the ability to then eventually break their ship, you're just going to be in an indefinite stalemate. Now, it's possible, and this has happened to me before, it's possible to bluff people, where it's like, hey, if you don't comply, I'm going to kill your ship, even if you have no ability to actually do so. The fact that you're telling them that you're going to, showing that you have a history of being able to kill other people's ships, they may pay. And then you're sort of forced to let them go, because even if you intended to get the money and kill them, obviously the situation is going to deteriorate if you just keep going. So then the third thing, and this is pretty important, is that you find a pilot who's willing to actually communicate with you. Not only willing, but there's people from all over the world, obviously, that play EVE. So if you have a significant language barrier, a lot of times that is not worth the time. If you catch a Russian, that Russian is not likely to pay you money. It's just very difficult to communicate effectively enough to convince them to give you cash. And people who are unwilling to talk obviously can't be ransomed. So this is a continuation of that, how to make them work anyway. theoretical game outcomes are dependent on rational players. Creating an irrational player can change the outcome. So your interactions with them can set them off one way or the other to either comply and pay or never pay you out of spite. And so I'm just going to go over a few things that make those changes. Don't be rude. You're already kind of screwing this person over. Be polite with them, and they're more likely to cooperate. That's just, common sense. But a lot of times, if you jump into a conversation with some guy that you're trying to ransom, and you're saying, "Hey, dummy, you're screwed. Give me money." That person's gonna be like, "Well, I'm not giving you anything. I'd rather watch this ship explode than give you cash." That's what you get for being rude. It creates non-financial incentive for the victim not to pay. Now, the financial incentive, theoretically, for a ransom, obviously, is for them to get to keep their ship, and it costs less by paying you than just losing it and replacing it. But the truth is, it's a gamble for them regardless. So it makes a big difference how much they are flying and how much you're asking them to pay. Some players are irrational regardless, as far as they'd rather watch the ship explode than try and interact with you. Even if you are going to eventually just blow them up and take their money, it makes more sense for the person to at least communicate, because it gives them some time for you to screw up, or if they have backup, some time for their backup to arrive and then push you away. So it's worth engaging with the person that's ransoming you if it ever happens. It may not be worth paying them, but it's worth giving yourself additional time. So keeping them on the line as long as you can, which is a strategy that people doing ransoms on other pilots are well aware of. And so, your conversation from either side of it, one guy will be trying to prolong the incident, and the other guy will be trying to get it done as quickly as possible. A person's incentive to pay or not is proportional to the value of the ship versus the ransom that you've demanded. So if you're trying to ransom somebody in a Tech 1 fit Dominic's, and you say, "Hey, give me 250 mil or I'm not going to let you go," obviously their incentive to pay is zero, because the loss of their ship will be worth less than paying you, and it's a pretty significant gamble. And so if you just one sec, no. So it's a pretty significant gamble for the person, which is why starting low. Where did it go? Here we go. Choose a price that's low enough to be worth a gamble, basically, for that pilot. Low enough that they go, well, maybe there's a chance they'll let me go, and even if they don't, I won't be too stricken by having given them an extra. Like in the case of a T1 fit battleship, you maybe say, "Hey, you give me 40 mil and I will let you go." Now 40 mil obviously isn't a ton of money. It's not a ton of money for people that are frequently doing PvE, but it does have the ability to replace some of the inexpensive ships that you might likely be flying if you're participating in piracy, especially the type of piracy that we're talking about, where you intend to fund yourself. So 40 mil for them, maybe not much. 40 mil for you, a good chunk, well enough to keep you funded for the next ransom. Okay, so get what I'm saying there? So the other thing is, ask them, "Hey, what would you pay me for me not to destroy your ship?" A lot of times they'll offer high. They'll offer, "Hey, I'll give you 100 mil, or I'll give you 150 mil," because they're not really thinking clearly as far as the way the math works out if you decide to screw them over in the end anyway. So commandeering other people's ships. Now, this is something that is really, really fun to do. I had a collection of Megathrons and Dominic's from other people that I had just sort of stored up over time in a low-sec system that I enjoyed doing this kind of stuff in. And the way that you convince people to get out of their ship and let you have it is that you make sure that the person is aware, once they've been caught, that that ship is no longer theirs. It's going to be destroyed, or, you make your case for them to eject, or and this is sort of the key: offer incentive. And this is going to include some lying, some manipulation, but you're a pirate, so do those things. You're going to tell them that kill boards are really important. They're not. You're going to lie to them, and you're going to say, hey, if you have silly-looking, battleship losses, good corporations won't want to recruit you. And if they believe that, they have some incentive to not want that ship to be destroyed, even though it's already lost. So those two facts combine, and they've got a good start to the incentive. So then you also include the fact that so you ask the pilot, hey, did you insure that ship? And most of the time, they haven't. A lot of times, they'll tell you they haven't, especially if you ask nicely, like, hey, I mean, you're at least going to get insurance, right? Oh, no, I'm not even going to get insurance, because they want you to feel bad and let them go. Obviously that. So basically, you offer to pay them to eject from the ship. Obviously, as the guy with all of the power in the situation, you don't give them anything until after they've left, but you basically say the insurance payout for that ship would be XYZ amount of ISK, and once you've left the system and I have that ship safely in my hangar, I'll give you a little bit more money than the insurance payout was going to be, and we both do better than if I just destroy your ship. Does that make sense to you guys? I'm telling you, this strategy sounds crazy, but that works all the time.
Jerk.
Yeah, well, but I'm a pirate, right? Look who's behind me here. I have fucking Jolly Roger behind me. Yes, it's piracy, and it's not nice, but it's fun, and it's a game. So honestly, everyone on every side of it's going to have to get over it.
So how many times did you manage to actually pull this off?
I had a dozen or so battleships and 2 orcas by the time I was done doing it, over the course of probably a year. So it's not a ton of money, but it was fun to do, and combining it with ransoms, I always had enough cash.
Cool.
So I think we're at sort of my wrap up here. Think like a predator. If you're going to be a pirate, obviously your intention is to be aggressive and work against the interests of other people for your own interest. You're going to be looking for the weak portion of any given group of people. You're going to cull the herd, so to speak. So if it's a large entity like currently our alliance goes after Proviblock a lot. There's a wide variety of people in Providence, but we will scoop out their weaklings and take stuff from them.
You joke, got friend in Providence.
Okay, me too. So the other thing is, as a person who's attacking other players, you have to try your best to consider what your opponent is up to. So if your opponent's strategy is to try and run away, understand that. If your opponent's strategy is to try and bait you, understand that. Figure out what they are likely to do, and then plan for it appropriately, obviously. But keep that stuff in mind. That goes along with knowing your surroundings, so knowing the exact region, knowing the people that are in that region, and knowing them in a sense that you are more likely to be able to gauge what they're going to do. Understand that the hunt is as important as the kill. Now, what do you guys think I mean by that?
Is the process in selecting the actual target?
Exactly. So not only the target, but where you kill them. It's all a part of creating the least risk situation for yourself, engaging and then getting out. So basically, you identify the target. You identify what they're in, what they're likely doing. You understand what their potential strategy is, and then you work to counter that strategy. So if they are, let's say, out ratting in a Raven, maybe there's a bunch of people in the system, but you know that guy, he tends to keep his ship over in a system a couple jumps away. Maybe you just leave that guy to his business and wait for him on his way back, and then you attack him at a gate. I mean, that sounds straightforward. That sounds simple. But if you don't make those considerations, you have less opportunities to capitalize on other people. So mentioned this at the beginning. Get out with loot when you can. A lot of times in combat, it goes in spurts, or it'll be one fight. You have the ability to loot something, and you could have taken it back to high sec. Or a really useful tactic actually is, bringing along mobile depots with yourself. So you go anchor a mobile depot at a safe spot, bookmark it, and then you can drop loot off into those cans. Now those locations are probable. Those the mobile depots are destroyable, but they have a reinforcement timer. So as long as you can get back in within 24 hours, you can still get your loot out. And then this one it's going to sound boring, but it's very true. Be patient and also willing to walk away from an engagement. Something that smells too fishy or it's too high a risk, just leave it be. There's no nothing lost by simply choosing not to engage. People will call you names, but if you're a big boy, it's likely you can handle it. And you'll find yourself becoming much more efficient and much more in tune with particular situations. Willing to walk away. Now that actually, I guess, for me personally, I started to really learn that when I started FCing a lot. Where a lot of times when you're FCing, there's a lot of push to just take whatever fight you can find because people want content. But the truth is, people want to win, and when you give them an engagement where they just got crushed, a lot of times it's not as fun as they were expecting. And even though in a lot of cases those people who are now disappointed were encouraging you to take the fight in the first place, they don't really look at it that way. So that's sort of the end. Let's go through some questions, and I think we had one other thing I was gonna do for Tavian. But anyways, let's do it. Questions, guys.
Okay, so if you see someone's kill board is very erratic, how do you deal with that? It's not one clear pattern in it.
Well, erratic in the sense that it is a big mixture of wins and losses, or just a mixture of
mixture of many kinds of ships.
Okay, well, if there's a mixture of PvE, PvP, large groups, small gangs, here's one thing you do know, is that the person is playing a lot, right? So they're at least doing something quite frequently. Now the other thing is, every time you get a kill or every time you lose a ship, that leaves a trail of information. So let's say, is this Travian? Were you the one that was wanting me to do this with you before?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at your board right now, right? So it's great KDR. Looks like you're pretty darn efficient, which is good, but it also looks like you have a lot of losses, actually. So those losses, they're minor, and I'm sure you're enjoying yourself while you're doing it, but they also provide a lot of information about the types of fits that you use. Now, as a risk assessment thing, obviously, I think on the scoring thing, I gave you, it's 3 for good efficiency, but I can go in and I can look, obviously, at your fits, and I can then determine, let's say, all right, your most recent, one of your most recent losses was a Daredevil, and it looks like a great fit. Looks like it'd be really fun to fly, but it also looks like it'd be super easy to cap out, and I happen to know it's super easy to cap out because I've flown something very similar. And so the other thing I know is that you're using probably an afterburner, and you're probably used to flying it in low sec. So if I happen upon you in something like I'm flying a Pilgrim, I can surprise you, you're going to be in a ton of trouble, right?
Wow, that's really actually. I lost a lot of ships to Pilgrims, so.
Well,
and, I also wondered if you could see that this account is bought, because the efficiency here is a bit higher than it actually should be.
I guess assume that, but the truth is it doesn't matter for risk assessment. the point is, if I jump in, I start looking through your boards, and I say, oh, well, this guy's got a bunch of kills, but his losses tend to be really poorly fit ships, I can sort of assume whether or not I'm going to be able to beat you based on the fact that, like, your fits aren't up to par. Like, your fits look good. I'm not, saying you personally, but, like, there's a lot of information to be gained out of the fits. Now, understanding every single ship in the game for PvP, understanding every single, potential fit, standard fits, bait fits, that all just takes time. I mean, getting a really good grip on how to fit things based on EFT or whatever your favorite fitting tool happens to be, that's key to, like, learning the game. But I guess not super relevant to the lecture, because the truth is, by the time you start trying to ransom other players, you probably have some experience in those things anyway.
So when you're doing the ransoming, what is the time that you say that is the maximum time that you spend with it, and you still have, like, the lowest risk?
Well, that's extremely subjective. If the situation is entirely stable, like I have this person dead to rights, but I'm simply waiting to see if they're going to pay. I mean, the truth is, that person knows whether or not they're going to pay after, just a couple minutes. And so if it drags on for more than 5 minutes, I'm likely going to just destroy the ship anyway. The other thing is, when you're being ransomed, be really polite to the person who's doing the ransoming, because a lot of times guys that are ransoming, if it's somebody that's new, will let the ship go. Like, I didn't always, I got them to pay me and I destroyed their ship. I mean, a lot of times if it was like their first time in low sec, I'd be like, okay, well, you paid ransom and you weren't a jerk, so, go do your thing. But I had no real incentive to, other than I just felt like being a nice guy. So yeah, I guess it goes along with the same thing. Both parties should do their best to be nice to each other while they're doing it. There's sorry, guy in the Twitch feed. There's no space. It's just Chandri's. Anyway, other questions?
Go ahead.
How can you, counter the sort of killboard analysis? Is there a way, by, I don't know, trying to have a large variety of ship fits and not fall into a pattern, try and sort of protect myself from that sort of analysis? Can I do that?
Well, so the thing is, none of the information is perfect on a killboard. You just had that guy, ask if I could tell that the account was purchased. I mean, just by the sheer efficiency of it, it's like 8,000 to 180, and that's good efficiency, no doubt. But just the KDR is in itself not enough information to sort of do the risk assessment. It's really what types of things do they fly, what kinds of fits do they use. As far as intentionally trying to make your killboards appear unpredictable, difficult to sort of gauge, I don't know that there's a great way to try and do that intentionally. I do think, though, that there's a lot to be said for being unpredictable as a pilot in general. So if I don't know if you guys were watching the Art of Poor videos, a lot of that really was all about basically having people assume you're doing one thing when you're doing another, or you are capable of one thing and being capable of more than they assume. So one of the clips maybe you saw was I was flying a Nereus, which is a Tech 1 Galante hauler set up as a combat ship, and when people attack that, they don't assume that it's a PvP ship at all, and so there you go. They have engaged a ship that they underestimated. And I guess tying this back into the main point here, the killboard may or may not have shown you that I have flown that ship, and back then I don't think I had actually lost any of those. And so had a person looked at the kill boards, they would have seen this is a guy that does some regular PvPing. Looks like he attacks people in the nearby low-sec systems and has a poor sex status, but it also looks like right now he's out in a hauler collecting loot out of a belt, and so now's my chance to like get him or whatever. So once then let's say I had lost the ship, if it's on the front page or of my kill board, so like within like, I don't know, I think it shows like 30 kills on the front page of your kill board. If I've lost recently those Nereus fits, people are going to look at that and be like, oh, well, this is probably what he's doing again, and I'm, and that pattern, that level of predictability would put me at a disadvantage, even though I'm in something that is essentially bait. Does that make sense, I guess?
Makes sense.
All right, what else?
For those of us who prefer or enjoy support roles, is there a place for us in a Black Ops fleet?
Well, I guess the main, and I don't want to get too far into that, I guess, but there's when you're talking about Black Ops battleships, the support roles that we use are obviously the Widow, which provides a lot of ECM benefit for the gang, and then Sins, which we frequently use as utility ships. So because the ship doesn't entirely have to rely on doing DPS via its high slots, we'll put remote reps or other fleet assistance type modules in the high slots and use them as utility. So yes, there is, but I guess to put it more simply, everybody in the Black Ops fleet is there to kill the target and then get out. You need to be able to survive long enough to kill it, and so that's the point of having some utility. And I'm assuming that would be what you mean by that. But
yes, okay.
Can you talk a little bit about efficiency on the Z kill board and like what it means? And that's it.
So efficiency in itself, literally, like if you just took that number, it means nothing. It doesn't provide you with much information at all. It does help you to sort of gauge whether the person at least has experience. In a lot of ways, somebody with a ratio that's like a few hundred kills and 100 losses is maybe indicative of somebody that's doing more direct combat and maybe will be more versed in like actual PvP than say somebody who, like, I think the top guy on Zkill right now is some dude who runs around in a Thrasher shooting pods all day in high sec, and he may or may not be experienced, but I wouldn't assume he really knows much about what's going on just based on his kill board. So point I guess is that it does provide you a place to start, but it's not a ton of information. And that's why it's not weighted very heavily in that little risk assessment thing. So I just got a request from somebody in the stream to look at one and just kind of go through an assessment. Now, little guy in the stream, I don't know where that chat window went. Sorry, 1 second, please. Oh boy. I gotta separate that. Okay, there we go. I think we're good now. All right. So let's do the full hypothetical, right? I've got your thingamajig open. Why don't you provide me a hypothetical situation? What are you flying in? Oh, so actually, I should answer a quick question here. Cardboard. See, here's the thing. When you run a Black Ops gang, it is so much nicer running that gang with all battleships. And I don't know if you've ever done it before, but even though there are good support cruisers, those cruisers are a bit of a pain in the ass to move around. And if you're a long range fleet where you're going to jump in nullsec and you're going to stay in nullsec for a while, let's say you're going to get a kill and then you're going to move to like deeper into the region, wasting fuel on either bringing a fuel truck like a Viator or a whole bunch of cruisers is just it's so much less efficient and so much less fun for the guys that are running around in the battleships. We just most of the time don't do it. We'll either do a bridge fleet where we're running in stuff that is a coherent doctrine that we intend to use through a bridge, or we will use a Black Ops battleship gang that is its own doctrine and doesn't necessarily include anything to bridge. Anyway, so let's talk about Justin Cole. That's not the right one, is it? This is the one. Robin Sund. Right? Person just linked it to me, I think. So looks like he's just getting started in PvP. Looks like he runs with some small to mid-sized gangs. Let's just check a recent loss mail. 347 million. So what has he done here? Like Fed Navy stasis web. No, that's not a terrible idea. I don't know what the context of this particular fit was. I understand the need for a web, but like let's just hypothetically, let's say I caught you out ratting now, and I looked and I saw, hey, this guy had a Fed Navy web on a ship he probably intended to take into PvP since he's remote rep fit. Like I'm guessing you were out doing some kind of a thing as a fleet. I would assume that if you're putting stuff like that on PvP ships, you're also going to put it on PvE ships. Therefore, if I'm going to ransom you, the price just went up. Why did it go up? Because I assume you have money to pay for things like ransoms and also fancy modules. The other thing it does is it gives me more incentive to, once you've paid me, maybe fuck you over in the end anyway. Sorry, that's just the way that works. But yeah. It's not a terribly intimidating kill board. It does look like at least that you've participated in some PvP. The fits look pretty standard-ish, which is good. I mean, that was a weird fit on the Hyperion. No, on the Hyperion. Now this would be a little bit more revealing for me. Is I see this and I go, all right, I'm out in a frigate, and this guy's out in a caracal. Now, I don't know if you guys have mastered this yet or not, but it is pretty important to be able to identify the weapon systems on a ship by looking at the actual model in the game. So, for instance, if I jump through a gate and Robin is sitting there in a caracal, before I decloak, I look at his ship and I identify, oh, he's got heavy assault missile launchers. Now I also identify by understanding that he's got heavy assault missile launchers that they're T1, and then maybe I've looked at his boards, if I'm really quick on it, but you can also see that they aren't Tech 2 just based on their model, which I should bring up a picture of that. But so I assume that his damage application is going to be really poor against small stuff, which means that if I came through the gate, the system that I came from is empty. Depending on how many people are in system with me and him, I may try and convince Robin to attack me by moving away from the gate or doing something that seems silly. And I be in a frigate, maybe I'll intentionally move slowly to let myself take a little extra damage so he thinks he's going to get somewhere in it. And let's say Robin and I were in an engagement against each other, and I was flying the Jaguar from the first video, the first Art of Poor video. I'll bring up EFT and I'll just go through this right now, and I'll show you why this would not work. One moment. EFT. Okay, so I'm gonna have to move the mic for a sec here. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I must have a few different versions of EFT saved. Well, anyway, let's do it this way. Just bear with me while we build this up real quick. Okay, you guys kind of see what I'm putting together here. This is the, I think, the fit from the video. It's either the fit or it's very close to the fit. And so generally I run with a Zor. I tend to run with a evasive 3% because it helps the agility. And then we use some 125s, which don't provide great damage, but they do fit, even though I have like no grid left. And let's just, it doesn't really make a difference, but and then I don't know, I think I was using a polycarbon because it's got a really great resistance profile to start with, you can already see, so it's useful to just be more agile. Anyway, now let's do a caracal. And he was using, I think, Arbalists, which is fine. Now let's assume he's using Faction Scourge, and he's got damage control. I don't remember. Read off the fit to me, please. I suppose I could just pull it off of the site too, but anyway, we'll just make it a little more standard. I don't know. Okay, he had 3 ballistics and 10 an afterburner, I think. Large extender. Actually, you know what? That doesn't even matter. Let's just do target painter. And a missile guidance computer, which probably makes sense for PvE. It makes sense for some PvP ships. It probably doesn't make sense for this particular. If you were going to use this for PvP, we'll put the precision script in it, and then other than that, he had another extender or 2 extenders. So that was the fit, and then he did just defense extenders. Medium core. Okay, so also let's see. Did you have drones when you got killed? You didn't, but whatever. We can just put in some hobs. It's only 2 anyway.
When you're done, would you please review the fits just right quick? For those of us who don't have like the visual.
Oh, okay. Well, so I'm just putting them together. You're currently not watching the stream, then I take it. That's okay. Basically, I put together the caracal fit in this lost mail. Where should I link this? I guess right there. So that caracal, and then the Jaguar from
Egypt.
Sorry guys, just bear with me. I promise this will make a lot more sense once I am done. So then the video includes the Jaguar fit. Now the main point here actually is going to be visual. I might be able to just send you guys a picture of it, but we're going to create a DPS graph to basically demonstrate why this caracal doesn't do jack shit to this Jaguar. Now you can see on this caracal, he's got a solid 400 DPS, even though he's using T1 missiles, and that's with level 5 skills. But unfortunately, because this Jaguar is able to mitigate so much of its damage by way of its speed, even with these additional things to help the damage application, it's only applying around 52 DPS, 62 DPS rather, and that obviously that doesn't include any resist. So that would be if that ship had, maybe polarized guns. So let's change that to I guess a weighted average. I could probably just figure out which one's the highest. That lowers that damage application to 25. That's including 2 hobgoblins and obviously all of its missiles. So out of its 400 nearly DPS, you can see none of it just about is being applied. I don't know. What percentage would that be? It doesn't really matter. A pretty insignificant portion of it. Now, the Jaguar can't really maintain full speed because it's using an oversized prop mod. So when it's orbiting within damage range, it's at maybe about half of its top speed, which gives it time basically to gives it a little bit more damage. So maybe you'd be taking like 35 against a weighted average of the ship's resists. And you guys can see what I'm talking about here. Hopefully I'll send you guys on the Mumble server just a quick picture in a moment.
So essentially just speed tanking it.
Yeah, it is speed tanking it, but the reason it's able to do so is that its signature radius remains low compared to its actual speed. Theoretically, you could do well with a MWD fit, but anyway, where should I link this?
I gotta say, I know the DPS was low to small objects, but I didn't know it was that low actually.
Yeah, and that's why people are using oversized prop mods so frequently. That and the fact that even if you scram me, I don't slow down and I can likely disengage, so you have to play with webs if you want to keep and kill the ship. Or you can just blob the shit out of me, and then I'll die too. But anyway, that's really all I have time for. I gotta take off, but I appreciate all of you listening, and I appreciate all of you guys who are watching on the stream. Thanks very much for all of your time, and hopefully I can do something like this again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
If possible, guys, just send me some feedback, because I don't know where I'll get this. I'm gonna try and get the recording up on YouTube for people that weren't able to watch it, but yeah, we'll see. It takes a little while to get that done. So anyway, yeah, thanks again, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
It was really good.